to help plan the distribution of resources and funds to improve access and standard of education. The presentation of the 2018 National Personnel Audit Report shows Nigeria officially has 10.1 million out-of-school children, which lays to rest the controversy surrounding the actual number. The report shows Nigeria needs to build 20,000 schools and needs the employment of more qualified teachers, especially in the early childhood education, to maintain 1 to 35 teacher-pupils ratio.
Now I'm very happy because, anytime we go to international conferences, as Minister of Nigeria, anytime I come, my head is always like this. Because there are no figures for Nigeria. The other thing that will make my head go down is the number of out-of-school children. But this one is even more important. But I believe what we have seen today, I believe we are just at the end of this shameful thing for us.
Nigeria needed basic education data for planning and effective management of the subsector.
The need for the federal, states, and local governments to embrace and utilize the new data to properly budget for education was re-emphasized by development partners.
This exercise, we agree with the UBEC that it needs to be updated regularly. And of course, it's flexible enough to accommodate all the missing gaps.
With the new data for Nigeria's basic education subsector, it is the expectation of a cross-section of stakeholders that the document should not be left to gather dust in the bookshelves.
The National Assembly recently passed a 2019 finance bill which made important changes to Nigerian tax law, and this includes the request for tax identification number TIN before opening business bank accounts for individuals. Following this legislative approval, several issues have been raised by Nigerians, and this includes the question of how aware citizens are, the level of preparedness by the Inland Revenue Services, among others. This report tells us more.
President Muhammadu Buhari presented the 2020 budget along with a finance bill that seeks to improve revenue in the implementation of the budget. The bill, which has now been passed by the National Assembly, will, among other things, mandate existing and new bank account owners to provide a tax identification number, or they may not be able to operate their bank accounts. Just days to the implementation is expected to commence in January 2020. Some residents in the Nigerian capital, Abuja, say they are not aware of the mandatory tax number initiative.
I'm not aware at all, but I have been hearing of TIN. I've not heard about it.
Well, I think I'll be hearing a rumor as regard to that.
For this respondent who already has a tax identification number, he believes taxes collected are being utilized, but this is countered by other respondents.
From the current administration, when we talk of roads, massively, because roads have touched many places now.
Between Gwagwalada and Lokoja, you can sample opinion. You have your colleagues who are traveling. Ask them the state of the road. From Lokoja to Okene, ask them the state of the road.
Paying tax, big industries, big business people who have things to do, big things to do, they can pay tax. But not people who are just managing to survive. The economy doesn't even go well for anybody, not to talk of people who are just, people who are just struggling to live.
Many fear that with the new TIN number initiative, it will lead to tax deductions on their bank accounts at will. But tax experts say this will not be the case.
No, it doesn't work that way. At the end of the year, you still need to file your tax returns. It has nothing to do with your bank account. Though it may be relatable, but it's not essentially directly proportional to what passed through your account. You still need to do your normal, you need to file to the government. This is what I earned during the year. This is the tax that is appropriate for me to pay. Then you pay.
The experts also say that the tax numbers to be generated lies in the hand of state internal revenue services to generate, and many may not have the ability to handle the rush.
These things that will be generated by the State Board of Internal Revenue, how effective is it? You're testing it out on JTB platform. You understand? Because some of them are not generated via the BVN and the NIMS platform. They are just generated separately on their own. Could I call it an orthodox approach that is just using Excel?
Questions still begging for answers include the minimum amount which individual account owners, especially the poor, must have before they can be taxed. Would the initiative not work against the cashless policy and make many begin to stuff money in their homes? Would this also not increase the number of the unbanked? Questions and more questions.
The sudden interest for Nigeria's ivory tar to instill discipline among its workers is beginning to take real effect as the University of Abuja on Monday sacked some staff members. The university said it terminated the appointments of Professors Adeniji Adedayo and Chibuzo Orji over sexual assault and examination malpractice, respectively. The university, in a statement issued by the head Information and University Relations, Habib Yakub, said Adedayo, who is a former dean of the Faculty of Agriculture, had an inappropriate relationship with a female student of the university, while Orji, a lecturer at the Department of Science and Environmental Education, was allegedly involved in the falsification of academic records and examination malpractice. The statement added that the university also said the sacking of both professors was directed by the governing council after a meeting held last Wednesday and Thursday. The statement read in part that the governing council at its regular meeting considered reports and recommendations from its disciplinary committee and after due diligence approved the termination of the appointments of 2 professors of various acts of misconduct according to Section 16, subsection 3C of the University of Abuja Conditions of Service for Senior Staff 1999. The council also approved the demotion of Dr. Robert Dejal of the Department of Science and Environmental Education, Faculty of Education, by a rank from associate professor to senior lecturer, and Mr. Ghana Defian, Department of Animal Science, Faculty of Agriculture, by 2 ranks from lecturer 1 to assistant lecturer for their complicity in various acts of misconduct inimical of the good image of the university. Before now, the Obafemi Awolowo University had sacked a professor after sexual marks in 2017, and early this year, the University of Lagos also terminated the appointment of a lecturer after investigation by BBC went viral on social media. The Nigerian Senate has given what seems to be the strongest assurance that it would approve the external loan request of 29.96 billion naira by President Muhammadu Buhari. The President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, gave the confirmation at a media briefing to highlight his achievements in the last 6 months.
6 months into the journey of providing leadership in the Senate, the President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, subjected his achievements to media scrutiny. In doing so, Lawan made it clear that the Senate will approve the $29.96 billion external loan request by President Muhammadu Buhari.
The question of whether we are going to pass the loan request of the executive arm of government. Yes, if you don't have money and you have projects that after you do them will not only provide the infrastructure that you need but also spend money, nothing will really militate against the passage.
Lawal said the Senate will, however, be critical of how every amount of the loan will be spent. President Muhammadu Buhari had resent the loan request as the external borrowing plan for 2016 to 2018 to fund Nigeria's infrastructure deficit. The request came a day after the International Monetary Fund, IMF, warned against Nigeria's rising debt profile. Regardless of this warning, government, with the support of the Senate, seemed determined this time to borrow more, after, in 2018, the 8th Senate turned down the same request.
But one thing is, we are going to be critical that every cent that is borrowed is tied to a project. That when the project, these are projects that should have spin-over effects on the economy. And we will undertake our oversight so well to ensure that such funds are properly prudently, economically, and transparently applied on those projects. Thank you very much.
A major concern, however, was why Nigeria will want to still borrow so much, even when it hoped to raise huge revenue to fund the 2020 budget with the passage of strategic bills like the finance and procurement bills. Nigeria's debt profile currently stands at 25.7 trillion naira, with external debt accounting for over 32% of it. Omo Bazwaye, AIT News, Abuja.
The Nigerian Senate says it will begin the process of amending the Electoral Act in January 2020. The president of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, who said this at a media briefing in Abuja on Monday, said the amendment was aimed at correcting lapses in the electoral process as experienced in recent elections in the country.
The Electoral Reforms Amendment Bill is a priority because of the urgent need to improve our electoral processes and secure the democratic gains that were made in the Fourth Republic. We want to pass the bill well ahead of the next electoral cycle in 2023 and avoid the political hit and pitfalls that imperil the efforts of the 8th National Assembly, which passed the same bill close to the last general elections.
Even though Lawan was unable to put specific time from the amendment, he said it was impossible to have an amendment that would completely address all the flaws in the electoral process, arguing that each election comes with its own challenges. On the issue of hate speech, the Senate President assumed that the Senate will not pass any bill that is against the wishes of the Nigerian people, pointing out that the opinion of Nigerians would decide if the bill will be passed or not.
Issue that has elicited so much reaction from Nigerians. And personally, I'm happy that everybody is talking. But it's not for members of the National Assembly alone to deal with the hate speech bill. Like I said at the beginning, it's for every interested person. If you feel the hate speech bill should not pass, when they will conduct the public hearing, get as many people against hate speech bill as possible.
Some leaders of the political parties in Nigeria want the judiciary to rescue itself and save the country's democracy from those they call bad eggs within the Independent National Electoral Commission and the various security apparatus. The leaders questioned the rationale behind the confusion created by the Court of Appeal in its judgment to the Oyo State governorship election case and the constitutional issues arising from the state governorship election petitions.
Judicial officers now interpret the law to suit their whims and caprices, from the local government level to state and finally to upper chambers. The story of the pitiable, trivial legislation saturates the entire gamut of our cracking democracy, while the people flounder in miserable misery. What do you think informed the recent confusion created by the Court of Appeal in its judgment in Oyo State governorship election case, when the judges spoke from both sides of their mouths? More worrisome is the constitutional issue arising from the Imo State governorship election being tossed around by the judiciary. For instance, the well-known trust of ABGA and Senator Ifeanyi Ararume's election petition against the last Guba election in Imo State is a clear breach of the Constitution by the Independent National Electoral Commission. The Apex Court should also be concerned because, as one of the stakeholders in the democratic space, unfolding events in our country show that Nigeria's democracy is gradually drifting into a kingdom of sorts.
They condemned what they termed the deliberate, systematic but criminal moves by some democratic institutions in Nigeria to change the narratives of what constitutes representative democracy in the country. The Nigerian government says the revised national security strategy document is a response to the evolving trend in the security environment and seeks to prioritize human security over state. National Security Advisor Babagana Mongunu said this during a public presentation of the document on Monday in Abuja.
February 5, 2015, President Goodluck Jonathan launched the National Security Strategy. Coming in the heat of the Boko Haram insurgency and other emerging security threats, the document's main aim was to identify threats including terrorism, cybersecurity, and then assign responsibilities to respective government agencies and ensure increased interagency synergy. Almost 5 years after, the authorities, mindful of the dynamic nature of crime and national security threats, realized the need for an urgent review. Leading this charge is the Office of the National Security Advisor, Babagana Mongunu, represented by the Director of Policy and Strategy. The NSA says the 2019 strategy has a roadmap on how to tackle emerging threats, including security of the people over state, tackle corruption, and provide the needed security framework for a sustainable economy.
The new notion of national security under this administration places emphasis on the people as the referent object and not the state, aimed at enhancing the social well-being of the citizenry.
The office of the NSA, led by the Director of Policy and Strategy and the Director of Defense Affairs, will continue another level of dissemination or sensitization, or what is called implementation.
Within the period of the last 5 years, Nigeria has had to deal with insurgent attacks, Boko Haram abductions, and killing of aid workers, kidnapping for ransom, farmer herders conflicts, and its resultant impact on food security, armed banditry, among others. But analysts are concerned that despite the strategy, the root causes are yet to be addressed.
We have 10 years experience of managing this act of insurgency, but we are not anywhere on top of it. Our security has really not been optimal in terms of safety and security of lives of Nigerians.
They believe that to win the war, there has to be a political will and committed implementation of the policies contained in the document.
Issue around monitor and evaluation framework being put in place and dealing with the fifth columnist in the military is also proper funding. The eye of the president should be on the ball. He needs to have an alternate means of getting information about Nigerian security sector.
Sustain the effort that we're doing, the military presence and other security agencies, and then there is effort being made to inject new technology, especially in areas of drone.
The consensus from all parties is on the need to work and constantly review the performance and response of heads of security agencies to ensure that a security strategy is not just a paperweight, but provide practical solutions to the various threats facing the Nigerian state. Ihotu Odo, AIT News, Abuja.
The International Human Rights Commission of the United Nations has called on the federal government to live up to its responsibility by returning and rehabilitating the countless displaced persons seeking refuge in displaced persons camps in parts of Benue State. The High Commissioner of the IHRC in the Middle East, Hussein Bul Said, stated this in Makurdi, the Benue State capital, when he conferred the prestigious award of Pride of Africa and Mandela Medal for Long Walk of Freedom on the state governor, Samuel Ortom. He said that the governor was singled out for the honor for his exceptional struggle for the safety of his people. He stated that a lot of good reports came when the governor was nominated for the award, even without meeting him in person, stressing that the Governor Ortom was the right man to receive such honor. Bul Said decried the lack of security at the internally displaced persons camp and urged the federal government to provide security for the IDPs, as it was their responsibility to do so, stressing that he was going to send what he saw as the camp to the Secretary General of the United Nations for necessary action. Responding, Governor Ortom dedicated the award to those who lost their lives in the struggle to prevent the Benue land from invaders and those in the IDP camps. even as he also called on the federal government to support the return of IDPs back to their ancestral homes. He expressed appreciation to all those who stood by him and the people of the state during the struggle, especially the media, Middle Belt Forum, Ohaneze Indigbo, South-South Forum, Afenifere, and all Nigerians of goodwill. The governor, who also thanks the IHRC for finding him worthy of the honor, said it would spur him to do more for humanity. The IHRC also conferred an award to honor the Benue State House of Assembly in recognition of the enactment of the laws of the protection of human rights. The people of Ogbaru from Anambra State, residents of the Federal Capital Territory, want government to urgently dredge River Niger, a leading cause of flood in the various communities of Ogbaru. They spoke at the Maiden Award ceremony to honor committed members of Ogbaru community.
By the yearly flood, which has killed several people and sacked many from their homes, the people of Ogbaru appealed to the government to act fast in controlling the flood while the dry season lasts.
The flooding issue is something we have been taking to the government over the years. If the dredging, the money sunk on dredging, is applied appropriately, the flooding issue will be reduced to a greater extent.
We are just expecting that after the season of the flood, because usually our area is a flood area, so after the season of this flood, the contract awarded already will be able to commence.
12 members of the group were rewarded for their contributions to the development of Ogbaru community.
I think it is going to encourage me to do more for the Ogbaru people.
To encourage them in whatever way I can to ensure that the younger ones coming after us imbibe the spirit of brotherhood and keep coming to this meeting. And from there are opportunities besides the socials. That is where you get to know about employment opportunities, about study opportunities for the younger ones.
It's going to help them to actualize their dreams, because it's a gathering of great people. It's a gathering of people that want the best for their people. So they need to come together.
The objective of the group, Ogbaru People's Assembly, is to help members share ideas and skills for their community development. Oge Ihimekme, AIT News, Abuja.
You're still watching AIT reports from our Abuja studio. We take you now to Lagos, where our presenter stands by with more reports. Do stay with us. We take you now to Lagos, where our presenter stands by with more reports. Do stay with us.
All right, thank you so very much, Adana. You're on to the Lagos Center on AIT reports, and I am Nkoli Omoldu. Nigeria sets 2027 as target year for actualizing a 70% local content strategy for the participation of indigenous companies in the nation's oil and gas sector. Speaking at a one-day media workshop for energy reporters in Lagos, Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Content and Development Monitoring Board, Simbi Wabote, who was represented by Gina, said the country lost over $300 billion in capital flight in the past years due to the dominance of foreign players in the petroleum sector in the country.
Before the enactment of the Local Content Act in 2010, the Nigerian oil and gas sector was largely dominated by foreign industry players, a development which cost Nigeria a whopping sum of over $380 billion in capital flight.
That $380 billion of capital flight before the coming of the NOGIC Act meant that this is money that Nigeria will have used to transform not only infrastructure in the oil and gas industry, but infrastructure for the whole country.
Upon enactment of the Local Content Act 2010, participation of Nigerians in the oil and gas sector improved from its initial 5% participation to 26% as at 2017.
The amount of involvement, aggregate involvement of Nigerian companies and Nigerian services in the oil and gas industry has been greatly improved from less than 5% to 30% today.
Even in the face of these challenges, the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board says it is still pushing ahead with its strategic roadmap to increase participation of Nigerians in the oil and gas sector to 70% by the year 2027.
Initiatives have been identified, and the idea is that once we work on these initiatives, which are like projects essentially, we'll be able to drive Nigerian content levels to the required 70%.
The gathering, which attracted participants from the oil and gas sector, academia and the media, was part of stakeholders' engagement by the local content board to find common grounds on how to improve local content in the petroleum sector. Femike Ibige, AIT News, Lagos.
In a report by the National Bureau of Statistics, women in Kwara State account for close to 50% of the state population. Yet, during the 2019 general elections, out of the 528 candidates who jostled for the 35 elective positions in the state, only 82 were women. 35 candidates contested for the governorship position, only 2 were women. Out of the 57 senatorial candidates, 7 were females. On the House of Representatives list, 83 candidates indicated interest to run. Only 10 were females, and out of the 353 House of Assembly aspirants, only 63 were females. Despite the low representation, female candidates who stepped into the race were allegedly forced out through all sorts of funny antics. One of such women was Mariam Adeniro, an aspirant for the Kwara State Assembly.
War on female gender has been mounted and sponsored by some political gladiators with the aim of snatching my mandate through the courts and deny the entire women of the state the right of making their voice to be heard in the legislation process.
Representation of women led to protests as they claimed they were being marginalized and demanded for political appointments from the current administration. Heeding their calls, the state governor Abdurrahman Abdulrazak nominated 9 women into his cabinet, a development lauded by Nigerians, particularly women.
We have been asking for 35% all over the world. He came and gave us 56%. That's the starter. No governor has been able to do that in Nigeria. So if all of them are trying small to put us there, there will be no need for agitation.
We women, we are the ones that's coming out during the election to vote for them. Yes. And we thank this governor that he is doing well.
With women now occupying 57% of political positions, expectations are high about their level of performance.
On gender mainstreaming in policy, planning is very important. So when they are planning for one man, one woman.
Ahead of the 2023 general elections, women are optimistic that with the state governor's action, more women will freely participate in the electoral process. Determined to give back to its alma mater, the class of Nigerian Navy Secondary School 1989 set has disbursed scholarship worth 9.3 million naira to 40 students who have distinguished themselves in the field of academics and sports. The event, which took place at NNS Ojo, had in attendance dignitaries such as the Flag Officer Commanding Western Naval Command, Rear Admiral Oladele Daji, Old Students Class 89 set, as well as present students from the Navy Secondary School, Ojo. According to President of the Class 89 Alumni set, Charles Bob Manuel, the gesture will spur other students to improve their performance for good.
So much more than just an education from this school. So it is only natural that we try to give as much back as we can.
While appreciating the Class 89 set for their assistance to the students, a representative of the school tasked the students to remain focused in order to achieve their set objectives in life.
I must state that today's scholarship award is not only limited to those that have distinguished themselves academically or in sports, but includes those that need financial assistance to enable them achieve their dream of having access to qualitative education.
The head girl, on behalf of other students, pledged to achieve excellence in their academics, even as they appreciate the assistance from the old students.
I would say that on behalf of awardees that we try our best to make optimum use of this rare privilege given to us. We won't let you down. We'll make you guys proud.
The award ceremony is coming after 30 years. The former students graduated from NNS Ojo, which is the first Nigerian Navy secondary school. The 3 refineries owned by the federal government lost a total of 111.27 billion naira from January to September this year. And this was contained in the September report of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC. The refineries posted a loss of 96.31 billion naira in the same period in 2018, according to the NNPC data. Nigeria, Africa's top oil producer, relies largely on importation of refined petroleum products, as its refineries have remained in a state of disrepair for many years, despite several reports. However, after over 1.5 years negotiations with financiers stalled in December 2018 due to varying positions on key commercial terms. The aggregate manufacturer CEO's confidence index for the third quarter of 2019 shows a marginal increase of 0.8% points to 51.7 points, an indication that manufacturers' confidence in the economy improved. The slight increase in the index period under review, the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria say, is a welcome development as it depicts uptick in the performance of the manufacturing sector. The improvement in performance was also attributed to the doggedness of manufacturers as the operating environment remained very challenging. The index identified inadequate electricity supply, multiple taxation, and overregulation, amongst others, as challenges confronting operations in the country. It also listed other challenges to include high interest rate, poor accessibility to port, poor infrastructure, and difficulty in sourcing forex. MAN also calls for urgent resolution of the Nigeria-Benin border dispute so as to resuscitate Nigeria's export trade within the ECOWAS region. The country's foreign exchange reserves continued its downward trend as it dropped from $39.8 billion on November 11 to $39.24 billion on December 13. Latest figures from the Central Bank of Nigeria have revealed. The reserves fell by $1.26 billion from $41.76 billion on October 2 to $4.5 billion as at the end of the month. According to the CBN, the reserves dropped by $482.18 million from $45.14 billion on August 8, 2019. The CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele said recently that Nigeria's overdependence on crude oil for over 60% of fiscal revenue and over 90% of forex inflows meant that shocks in the oil market were transmitted entirely to the economy via the forex market, as manufacturers and traders who require forex for input purchases were faced with dwindling supplies. And that's our package from Lagos on AIT Reports. More reports to come from Abuja with Adana Odemene. Do stay with us. I am Nkoli Omodu.
The extent to which about 500 Nigerians were evacuated from South Africa. I was in one of the bond stores to see the extent of the damage.
standing right inside one of the shops that was burnt down in the course of the xenophobic attack.
I go the extra mile to bring you reports on Nigerians in diaspora and, of course, the African women. I'm Tony Babawale, first with stories on the diaspora and women affairs. And this is AIT.
Information and communication technology, that is the new direction globally, and Nigeria is keen into this evolution. AIT News is keeping tabs on various areas of this all-important sector. I'm Ruluke Ogudele, and you are watching AIT News.
Welcome back to AIT Reports. Nigeria's 5-year broadband plan has received a boost with the inauguration of a committee that will initiate a planned pathway for Nigeria to harness the gains of the digital economy. Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Issa Pantami, challenged members of the committee to work around the challenges that worked against the implementation of the expired plan of 2015.
November 28th this year, Nigeria launched the national broadband policy of the country to span a period of 5 years. This is not the first of such policy. The last one ran from 2013 to 2015, with very little achieved, no thanks to inadequate infrastructure and key challenges. Key industry players say the new broadband policy was formulated with this in mind.
Through this project, the UK government will provide a mix of technical expertise to support the drafting of the new plan, conduct outreach activities and jointly facilitate technical retreats
to ensure all peoples of the world have access to equitable and affordable broadband.
Satellite is one of the key infrastructure that the ministry already possesses to actually deliver this broadband to the rural dwellers. Please, unlike the past broadband plan that didn't contain any part, they didn't give satellite a role. That shouldn't.
The minister at the inauguration said the current 37.8% penetration rate in the country must increase significantly to give the nation's journey towards a digital economy a boost. Industry issues of access to right-of-way and building new infrastructure, especially in underserved areas of the country, remain top priority.
If you look at pillar number 3 is solid infrastructure. Solid infrastructure accommodates broadband.
A federal high court in Abuja has resolved the controversial Soko oil well dispute between Rivers and Bayelsa in favor of Rivers State. Consequently, the court has ordered the National Boundary Commission to correct what it observed was a patent error in the administrative map of the states published 13 years ago.
It is all about promoting good governance by giving you detailed and accurate analysis of issues. In our reportage, I am Ogie Ihimekme. You are watching AIT.
Keep up to date with the latest development in Nigeria's petroleum industry, the ups and downs in the power sector, the nitty-gritty.
On Inside the Parliament, we raise issues.
If we follow this strictly, and every quarter this is sent to the National Assembly and to the Fiscal Responsibility Commission, we will monitor the so-called projects that are supposed to be budgeted for.
Power, offices should reflect federal character. Equity, fairness, justice. This is what this aspiration stands for.
We are authoritative, accurate, and timely.
Power has 127, transmission has 130. This shows that the government is serious in providing the necessary infrastructure to drive and sustain, a private sector that will enhance the development of our economy.
I think we need to do much more than we are doing. There should be mentoring programs for young people. Even as parliamentarians, I think we can do more.
Follow us as we go inside the parliament.
Watch Nigeria right now.
Nigeria right now.
Nigeria right now.
Nigeria right now. This is Nigeria right now.
Nigeria right now.
Nigeria right now.
Nigeria right now.
Still and watch Nigeria right now.
The Southeast is marginalized. The South is highly marginalized. Power is a national emergency.
Very timely.
Nigeria right now.
Join me as I bring on board participants, discussants, as we chisel out ways forward. Nigeria right now, incisive, constructive, informative, and patriotic. Nigeria right now, poised to engender patriotism.
If it's your social or corporate events, we will definitely be there. Talk about our personalities. We celebrate them.
I believe that integrity is very important. I will be the saddest person any day if somebody comes out and says you are a corrupt person or you stole and do.
All these on one show. Join the entire Unisom on Personality, Places, and Events. Your weekly flagship magazine program.
Kids, we're home.
Mom, you said you were gonna see Uncle T at the hospital, not bring him here.
Whatever you just did was so unhealthy.
Something that is natural and healthy.
I'm done with the Christmas budget you asked me to work on.
5 cartons of chicken, 70,000. Cow leg, 30,000. Are we feeding the whole neighborhood?
What's for dinner?
We're having avocado, with salad and truffle.
How much do you think that is?
This is 500,000. 2? That should be $1 million. This is $1 million naira, bro.
Like 1 million?
There's no leader anywhere really will be happy to come and see violence being meted to its citizens.
50, 80, 60 will be killed in Zamfara.
Quite. But it's the problem of you people who are the problem.
Violence cannot take us to anywhere.
There is a difference.
It sounds helpless. The situation
It's not helpless. Cutting our quota according to our size, over centralization on some issues is really not good for us.
The spread of this violence exists, and that worries me.
My advice is to be alive to their responsibilities.
Always a pleasure, sir.
It's also a pleasure talking to you.
Kali Igwe has been talking violence.
I will ruin him. I will tell it all. Every shady deal. From the story about his best friend and his business associate demise.
That's something lovely from me to you.
It's beautiful.
Is it?